Well, hello all, and thank you for joining us for another edition. This is the first edition after our week-long coverage of the Democratic Convention. I have no idea how we survived it, but we did, and we actually managed to make a show as well. So very excited about this and about what will be coming in the upcoming weeks. But before that, we have a bunch of news for you. The Guardian has issued an article stating that William Chapman's murderer, he's a man in Virginia who was shot. His shooter, a cop named Stephen Rankin, has just been convicted of first-degree murder, and it is one of the first cases in which this has happened in recent years. Now, of course, what will happen? I assume that the results of the trial is going to be appealed to federal court, but so far, at least, he has been found guilty of manslaughter, which carries with it a maximum sentence of 10 years. The defense attorney stressed Stephen Rankin's many years of servitude to the people, and that sentencing him to 10 years would not bring back William Chapman, who was shot dead. William Chapman had been accused of shoplifting. He was unarmed. In his pockets, they found barely anything, and he was in a scuffle. According to the police officer, he was in a scuffle with him, fisticuffs, when the police officer drew his weapon and shot him. One of the points in which he stressed self-defense was that the taser was out of his reach, so he had no recourse but to shoot him. The prosecutor, however, characterized it as bringing a gun to a fist fight and saw it as overt murder to even consider pulling a trigger in this case. The jury was not allowed to be informed of Stephen Rankin having shot another unarmed man, a chef, an immigrant, some years back, but he was caught on camera, on his own camera, stating that this was the second unarmed person he had shot to the store clerk of where William Chapman supposedly had committed shoplifting, although nothing was found on him. Keeping it within law enforcement, Jordan Smith from The Intercept reports that a very old case that most people in Texas have heard of, and many people outside of Texas, Jeff Wood, who had been falsely accused of having murdered one of his friends, but has since been proven not to have killed anyone, but after that had been proven, run out of appeals, is about to be executed. His execution date is not far off, and The Intercept is trying to bring light to this travesty of justice, where a provenly innocent man who has simply run out of appeals is about to be executed. Also from The Intercept, John Schwartz and Lee Fang has written an incredible article on Citizen United and how Citizen United has made it possible for outside money to come into the elections in the United States. There's actually on AP also been a couple of articles today and in other newspapers, been articles about how there was one about a GOP lawyer who had brought a Chinese company in to help fund GOP elections, and other stories of the same nature. So Chinese money, not Russian, seems to be flowing into American elections this election cycle. To keep it even closer, to go back to justice and what is happening in that world, Alice Sperry, also from The Intercept, has written an article where the Black Lives Matter movement, they have issued some series of, I wouldn't call them demands, but a series of redresses that needs to be met and answered. One of the big sticking points most people have had on the Black Lives Matter movement is the same sticking point they had on the Occupy Wall Street movement, which was, well, where are your concrete demands? What are the policies that you want us to enact? What are your demands? What do you want us to do to satisfy your needs? And it seems like Black Lives Matter have now answered this in many regards. They are not just talking about criminal justice reform. They are talking about a redress, which my skimming through of their points would address the issue from as many points as possible. You can see quite a few notes taken from Michelle Alexander, among other inspirational sources. More with the election, from The Intercept, they have a very good, well-written story by Saeed Jilani on Donald Trump's, what would we call it, a small skirmish with Paul Ryan yesterday and today, where Donald Trump refused to endorse Paul Ryan. He basically used the same rhetoric that Paul Ryan used about endorsing Donald Trump, where he said, well, I'm not ready to endorse him at this point, but it looks like he's doing a great job. Well, Donald Trump said basically the same about Paul Ryan's campaign. Interestingly, though, Donald Trump's running mate has endorsed Paul Ryan's bid for re-election. This could again point to the fact that there are quite a few of the bigwigs, or at least big names in the GOP, that have yet to endorse Donald Trump, or at least have yet to stump for him. In other news on the election, Microsoft has pitched a technology, among others that they've pitched it to is Politico, the famous website and web paper that breaks down election numbers. They pitched to them a facial expression reading technology that can be used at political rallies to read the facial expression of thousands of people at the same time and give you an overview of this. And this goes to show you that Big Brother doesn't need to be the government. Google and Microsoft seems to be doing quite a good job on their own. Of course, it's not the technology in itself that is the problem. It is the utilization of it. But this is, yet again, a piece of technology that in the wrong hands can be abused. And I would believe that if this piece of technology reached either of the two big parties, it would be in the wrong hands. In other election news, and also a topic that we are going to touch on quite a lot today, Democracy Now! Hosted a debate between Robert Reich, who endorsed Bernie Sanders but has now started campaigning for Hillary Clinton, and Chris Hedges, who also endorsed Bernie Sanders and is now campaigning for Jill Stein. If you have not seen this debate yet, go into a video description, find the link for Democracy Now!, and you will see a very interesting debate between two very intelligent and eloquent, unlike me, eloquent people. And very breaking news on the AP Wire, Lisa Lera and Catherine Lucy has done an amazing breakdown of how Clinton, Hillary Clinton, is now wooing a new group of voters, Republicans. It only took her a week, but it didn't even take her a week. She had an interview with Charlie Rose the day after the convention, in which she immediately drove not just to the center, but quite to the right of it. Throughout the Democratic primary, she did everything to basically write the word progressive on her forehead, and was fighting with Bernie Sanders over being the most progressive, and she refused that she in any way had been pulled left to the left by Bernie Sanders, and that she was the same person she had always been, and she had been elected on that, and that she was a center-left, and she emphasized center. The Democratic Party is a center-left party, seeing it as a centrist party, which is in line with the Bill Clinton vision of the Democratic Party, the New Democrats, but not in line with the FDR Democrats or Bernie Sanders Democrats in any way, shape, or form. But she is now not only positioning herself for independence, but is doing everything she can now to try and claim Republican voters. So there you have it, folks. Hillary Clinton immediately running from the base that Bernie Sanders had gathered, and that is now on by Bill Maher being called unpatriotic for not voting for Clinton or working for Clinton getting elected. And the latest bit of news is also off the AP Wire, where Donald Trump is reported to have accused Obama for rigging the general election. He's gone off him trying to, quote-unquote, help Bernie Sanders by claiming that Hillary had rigged the primary. He's now saying that Obama is rigging the general election. Now, Obama is, of course, in every way, shape, or form, vehemently opposing this notion. But taken in context with the New York Times piece that shows some commentary from the Trump supporters at Trump rallies, which shows the reaction to when Donald Trump says that that Obama has been the most divisive president in recent history, how he's divided up the country and split it in two. I would put that on Fox News, CNN, and the two political parties, not on Barack Obama, President Obama. But the response from his voters was quite emphatic and used the N-word, among others, in their opposition to hearing Barack Obama's name spoken. And to hear him now already accusing President Obama of rigging the general election before it's even properly underway, well, you can see he's gearing up to keep the anger going post-election if he should lose it, if he should lose the general election. So yeah, that's the news that we decided to cover today, and that hasn't really been covered much by mainstream media yet, with the exception of the one Trump story. Richard and Dave, if you want to get in here and comment on any of this.
Yeah, I just wanted to hop in, and it's good to hear of a conviction when, in such an instance, like you mentioned at the top of the news. Not enough of those, in my opinion, but one is more than none, which is the going rate, more or less, despite the more ridiculous situations that we've seen in quite so many circumstances. And even in the North Carolina shooting, where the man was running from the police after getting pulled over, resulting or from something to do with a brake light, that guy still isn't convicted. He's currently on house arrest, so it takes a long time. Justice doesn't seem to be swift in these situations, and as you mentioned, it'll probably go on to appeal, so hopefully those turn out in an appropriate way, I suppose.
But I find it interesting how when it's not a police officer, then the rhetoric is, oh, what will it serve to put him in prison? It won't bring that person back to life, and he's been a good citizen that serves the civic society. But when it's an ordinary citizen who may have also served the civic society, it's throw the key away. He murdered him, or she murdered him, or whatever. It's an interesting flip of the script.
Absolutely.
That happens.
And then you also mentioned the facial recognition. I thought that was interesting. That will definitely help certain politicians, I can imagine, like Hillary Clinton, be able to pander more real time. You know, she'll be able to look at some sort of heads-up display.
Well, she doesn't have an audience at her rallies, so she can't use it.
I suppose. Well, I mean, she'll only need minimal processing strength, it appears. Yeah. I couldn't believe I've seen some of the pictures. I mentioned some folks have seen it on Twitter or elsewhere of how the media is reporting the rally, and then if you zoom out from behind, what the rally actually looks like, and along with lots of other things that we've covered or that we're covering, it's feeling more and more Orwellian. I hate even going there, but at the same time, it's just it feels ridiculous. Like, at what point do we stop pretending that we're obviously they're trying to manipulate us? It feels like I've heard others here at Project Sanity describe it as like a commercial. feels like a commercial, and it's getting more and more over the top and more ridiculous, and not in the comical, messing with Sasquatch kind of way, but
No.
more in the head-on, apply directly to the head type way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I mean, other than doing what we're doing and what other independent medias are doing, like The Intercept and like Democracy Now, I simply don't know what to do about it. It's pervasive. It's people keep talking about Fox News, and I actually think Fox News is doing more damage in new ways than they even themselves consider, because they are so much the bad guy that, in contrast to them, everyone else looks like a saint. But CNN and MSNBC and ABC does the exact same thing as Fox News does, but they're just not that good at it. Now, vis-a-vis the opinion shows on Fox News and how they work, like the Sean Hannity show and the No Spin Zone with Paul O'Reilly and stuff like that, that is insanity on a different level. But I mean, you basically have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to see that. Yeah, but I mean, in regards to the conviction of Stephen Ranking, I gotta say, like, I remember one of the most famous stories about police brutality against unarmed black people. Why can't we just all get along? As a quote, those police officers were all in orange jumpsuits. They were all convicted of excessive use of force and many other things, and then a federal court sprung them. And what was it that happened then? I forget.
I believe some people were a little upset, and
Where? Oh, right, the L.A. riots. Right,
yeah.
South Central L.A. was on fire for a couple of days. Yeah.
So ideally, hopefully, we can avoid any situation like that, and it's I've come to the conclusion recently that it makes sense how we've managed to get worse in what seems in a lot of different areas as a result of exactly what we're seeing pounded into our face this election, which is we just picked the less bad choice. And so long as you just have to be less bad than the other person, then as long as both people are getting progressively more bad, then it just gets worse. And there's no reason to get any better, because all you have to do is be less bad than the new worse person, which Trump has set a new bar for how bad an opposition candidate could possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, which, I mean, and Hillary did the same thing, only superseded by Trump
Yeah, and speaking of Hillary, there's a piece out there floating around social media that they've tried to dress up as being a pro-Bernie person who's now pro-Hillary, and there's this very long post about why was I against her so much? Oh, it's just all right-wing propaganda that the left is now endorsing. It's like, no. She's a basically honest and good, intelligent woman. Why was I so opposed to her? I was just caught up in the entire Bernie thing. I was like, no. You're not a basically honest person when you mischaracterize your position on almost everything and then change your mind as the opinion polls change on the subject. You're not a basically honest person when you go, I landed in Bosnia under sniper fire. No, you didn't. You were in Bosnia. That's impressive enough, but you had to add under sniper fire. You were not under sniper fire.
It was just misspeaking, misremembering something that didn't happen. I mean, just, I'm sure Brian Williams has a great explanation for it. She can just use one of his. I just really, and with also the FBI Comey came out and said basically couldn't confirm that she told the truth to anyone except for the FBI. Didn't want to back the idea that what she was saying in public matched what she was telling the investigators, and everybody that saw what he said and saw what she said, CNN, all the fact checkers all broke it down, and yet she's still out there going to rallies. She just went out to one yesterday and probably going to go out to more in the future, saying, "Oh no, he confirmed that whatever I told you guys was the truth," which is just counterfactual to reality in such a way that it's even the Washington Post wrote an article saying that they were kind of taken aback by the boldness to stick with something that had been so roundly called basically a lies in as many ways as you can through the news, which makes it to where I can't trust, in my view, can't trust either one of the candidates, which should seem to me to be a more perilous situation than it seems that the media wants to paint it as. It's like, well, yeah, Trump's really bad, but Hillary's not as bad, so we should be thrilled to be able to pick her and knock out that whole first woman president thing too while we're at it. Instead of, wait, these are two terrible candidates. What is wrong with our political system that
Yep.
these are the two that we nominated? That should be basically all the media should be talking about from now until November, and let the horse race sort itself out on its own, in my opinion.
Yeah, we basically have the choice between a rock glued to a head and the second Nixon. It's like I look at this and I despair because it's going to be more fracking. It's going to be worse for the environment. It's going to be more flip-flopping. Like, Hillary Clinton has never had an opinion that she couldn't run away from 2 minutes after she voiced it. It's going to be more of everything. Now, the question is, what are we going to do about it? And that is hopefully some of the things that we're going to examine in the pre-recorded interview with a former Bernie delegate and with Adair in the later hours.